directly, first person. It won't be secondhand knowledge. And Jesus, like when he told Peter, he said, Peter, who do men say that I am? And Peter said, well, they say you're Elijah, or you've John the Baptist, or whatever. And then Jesus says, Peter, who do you say that I am? I don't care what they say. I don't want secondhand knowledge. I want what's in your heart. Who do you say that I am? And he says, you're the Messiah. You're the Holy One that was sent. He said, that's what I wanted to hear, because that's what will save you, because you now believe the Spirit revealed this to you. That's your salvation. Now hang on to it. Hang on to that. Don't ever leave that place of faith, because that's the holy place that will save your soul. And don't go back listening to men, because in Matthew 24, Jesus said, do not listen to men when they start telling you secondhand that Christ is here, Jesus is coming over there. Do not be deceived, because your relationship is between me and you. It doesn't go through another channel, another way. It's the new covenant of Christ and Him crucified. In you, the kingdom of God is in you because you received it by faith. First person through the Spirit, not through some evangelist that wants you to follow them. But if you feel them pulling and you're required to answer to them, give an account to them, because when we stand in the judgment, who do we give account for? Who do we give account to? It won't be to an evangelist. I guarantee you that.
And how we know that that process is true, that you have to actively move forward in your faith, and we have to actively say, I believe, but help my unbelief, which was the message last time we went on, is it says, pick up the cross daily. That's why he said that he knew this fight of faith, to stay in the place and grow into the sons of God and not a baby, is picking up our cross every day. He knew we would need to hear that.
Now, this remembrance is a spiritual substance that arises within. And it's not just in memory of, like we remember somebody, we remember the good times, we remember things of the past. This is a living recollection that arises. It's an affectionate calling. We call upon Him when we do it. When we do that, there's a calling in our spirit to God. And it's inside of us. It's an individual. It's not just we're in a group of people doing this. Each individual person that's partaking of this, something is to be happening spiritually inside of them. That's what counts with God. It's more than just a ceremony to acknowledge that, yeah, we all got together and we had this ceremony. No, there has to be a spiritual thing happening inside, which you said it was a calling, not just an external bringing to remembrance. There's an awakening. There's a spiritual awakening that occurs in this. And partaking of the new covenant communion of Christ crucified. So we feed on Christ crucified, and we talked about that last time, that we feed upon the body and the blood, and in that communion, Jesus washed our feet. Your feet to be cleansed, so we can be on holy ground together. We can be in that most holy faith together. You know, in the Old Covenant, the priest came into the temple. They had to be washed at the laver. They had to be washed to go into the holy place and then go into the most holy place. They had to be cleansed, and the blood had to be there, and then the bread was broken. The priest broke the bread. So what he did with his body, he broke his body and shed his blood for us to be made acceptable, to have the deep fellowship with God, to be one with God. Inside of us, living witness. It brings a new witness to us. We have a new testimony, a new testament. It's absorbed through the hearing of faith. And our soul, our inner man, our soul feeds on that everlasting life. Because I preach Christ crucified because I fed on Christ crucified. I have communion, spiritual communion, first person communion with God. In my inner man, I have first person communication with God. So the Messiah brought the new covenant, which was through his shed blood and broken body.
Something you were describing, the Holy of Holies and all the procedures that only certain ones could go in, and they'd be trained all their life to be able to go into the Holy of Holies. They would even stay up all night so they didn't have a bad dream to defile themselves. They would tie a rope around their legs so that in case they did have sin and they were struck dead, then the other person could pull them out without being struck dead as well. So there was a lot of procedures. Well, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is how I think of the Holy of Holies now, as a place that once the child is conceived and a spirit is in there immediately, in my opinion, there's a holy of holy place in each and every one of us. And that is the place that salvation sits once you accept it. So we each can do what he was describing. We're each called and expected to draw near and to protect that and to grow in that. If it's a whole nother thing, you just can't go sit in church and let somebody else do it for you. Just as special and such a really particular thing those priests had to do for the people, Jesus said, now you do it. And they were very honorable, but they were in law. And now by the Spirit, we can come into that place. And we can come deeper and deeper into that place as we get cleansed. Grace covers us while we're getting cleansed. But
we receive that word, and the fight of faith is to protect that living word. We get that living witness, so we have to fight the fight of faith. We can't just rely on somebody else that knows more. They may know more scriptures intellectually. They may have more history and more stuff under their belt, training under their belt. But we can't trust in that or somebody to fight that fight for us. We're called individually. We have to fight that for the faith. We have to fight for that living witness that's in us, that most holy faith that we receive through communion with God. We receive that faith that Jesus was talking about in Matthew 17. This kind, my faith, will come out of you. And if we have his faith, yes, we wait upon the Lord, but we don't cower in fear. We're not to cower in fear. We're to stand. Because if we cower in fear, we serve the world. We go back into the world in fear, and that's offensive to God.
Because he gave us the cross, so it's like you're using my name in
He
vain.
gave us the power to get rid of that fear, that power in love. When we have that loving relationship with him, that thing is, fear is removed, so we don't go back and lose that faith, which we can lose that faith if we don't fight. If we don't fight and we choose fear, then God's like, well, nothing I can do. You've chosen to forsake the way because of fear.
Yeah, and just with us, we both love God. We're both in this covenant with him individually and together. But we each have to go before the Lord on our own. And our relationship together sometimes will come like, it's not like, say, so you go away and it wouldn't be what it's supposed to be if we didn't have that one-on-one.
Yeah. If we don't have that one-on-one, then a hindrance comes.
Yes.
A block, a hindrance, and even a tug of war can happen. But if we're both laboring to seek God together, then there's synergy in that. We are laboring together, so there's strength in numbers that way. But there's also the danger of a weak link.
And this will reflect where you are at with God. Your relationships with people will reflect where you're at with God. And it's good because it can be used to get on your face and to cry out and to grow. And
That new covenant communion, just like food and water and strength, for strength, we need those things every day.